And Israel is in the grips of a war against Hamas. Joining us now on the latest developments is Eylon Levy, an Israeli government spokesperson. Eylon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me on the show.
So we're on day 10 of the war since the brutal and barbaric attack by Hamas against Israeli civilians. Israelis are being told that this is a war that will take time. But what is the end goal here?
The end goal here is very clear, and it's different from previous rounds of fighting with the Gaza Strip. In previous rounds of fighting with Hamas, the aim was to deter Hamas or to degrade Hamas. The aim this time is to destroy Hamas. The aim is to dismantle Hamas as a military and governing body so that it can never again harm Israeli civilians. Because a world in which something like the October 7th massacre can take place is a world in which it will happen again. And we can never go back to a reality in which Hamas is able to perpetrate such crimes against our people, such crimes against humanity. And that is why Israel has taken the strategic decision that it can no longer live with the organization called Hamas governing the Gaza Strip, using it to stage attacks against Israel. And that is why Israel is now targeting Hamas infrastructure inside the Gaza Strip, going after its leaders, going after its men, going after its operational centers and its military compounds in order to destroy the Hamas military machine, as we continue to uncover and unearth more evidence of the atrocities that took place on October 7th, giving, I think, all of Israeli society a lot of resolve to commit to what may be a long slog.
Now, Israel has the backing of the United States and much of the Western world in eliminating Hamas, but we're already seeing international pressure with regards to the civilian population in Gaza. Today, there was some back and forth regarding a potential ceasefire in the south of the Strip. Can you clarify Israel's position on this?
There is no ceasefire. Israel is going after Hamas, and it's going after Hamas hard. At the same time, Israel is urging civilians in the northern Gaza Strip to vacate to the south temporarily for their own safety. And Israel is working with international partners to create a safe zone in the south that will help to ensure their safety, because we don't want civilians to be hurt. And Israel is therefore complying with its obligations under international law to warn about the attacks that are coming, giving civilians time to get out of harm's way. The real tragedy is that Hamas is not only urging its civilians to stay put, it's actually physically stopping them from getting out. We have evidence of Hamas erecting roadblocks on the main road to stop people getting out. Eyewitness accounts of Hamas even stealing people's car keys. And this is an abomination. It's a monstrosity that while Israel is trying to save the lives of civilians in Gaza, getting them out of harm's way, Hamas is trying to make sure that the civilians of Gaza die so that they martyr themselves for the cause. It's a tragedy, and I have to add, it's a tragedy that the international community as well, instead of urging Palestinian civilians to heed Israel's call to temporarily get out of the combat zone, is instead obstructing the effort to get civilians out of harm's way. We don't want to see more casualties. That's why we want people to evacuate. And hopefully, when we defeat Hamas, and we will defeat Hamas in an operation that, as President Biden said, he would expect, if at the United States, to be swift, decisive, and overwhelming, then we can begin to rebuild in a region that will be safer for all of us.
Now, one of the goals stated by the Prime Minister is the safe return of the hostages. The Prime Minister meeting with families of the hostages last night. Are there negotiations with Hamas for their release? What is Israel doing to ensure their safe return?
Israel will do whatever it takes to ensure the safe return of our hostages. At the moment, there are 199, the IDF confirmed earlier, hostages inside the Gaza Strip, from babies just a few months old to the elderly without their medication, probably not being fed, being starved, because that's what the Hamas manual that President Herzog exposed yesterday on CNN says that they plan to do with the hostages. And Israel's demand is crystal clear. We demand the immediate and unconditional return of our hostages. That is our demand. That is what we expect the rest of the international community to echo. And we expect the entire world to use all pressure on Hamas to demand the immediate and unconditional return of our hostages.
And finally, Israel has had its divisions in recent months, but now it seems Israelis are uniting, the Prime Minister now forming a unity government. Are there any more parties expected to join, and what can you tell us about the unity efforts?
I'm not going to comment on sensitive political negotiations and discussions that may or may not be happening. But you're absolutely right to note that we've seen an incredible mobilization of Israeli society, people committing to this war effort, because everyone all across society understands that we can no longer tolerate the existence of this ISIS-style organization like Hamas inside the Gaza Strip. And people are doing whatever they can, from donating what they have, putting up evacuated people. Women are even donating their own breast milk, anything they can in order to help support this effort, to support the people who've been evacuated on the ground. And it's inspiring. I think it really speaks to the resilience of Israeli society that people have come together at this moment, put aside the arguments that we've been having to focus on one thing that is essential for our existence here in this land: victory against the Hamas death machine.
And as a spokesman for the government of Israel, is there any message that you would like to convey to our viewers, to the world, or maybe to Israelis today?
Yes. The October 7th massacre was the worst terror attack in world history after 9/11. The death toll as it stands is nearly half a 9/11, not adjusted for population in absolute terms. What we witnessed last Saturday was the single worst massacre of Jews since the Holocaust. Hamas revealed itself to be an ISIS-like organization, if anything worse than ISIS, committing atrocities that are just beginning to come to light: beheadings, burnings, butcherings. They invaded with thermobaric weapons in order to incinerate whole families in their homes until they're barely recognizable as human remains, and Israel is still trying to identify them. Hamas revealed itself as the face of pure, sheer, unadulterated evil. As such, we will destroy it. And we expect the full solidarity of the international community in that effort to destroy Hamas, just as the enlightened world destroyed ISIS. And the whole Western world now sleeps more safely in its bed for the efforts that the West took to destroy ISIS. And we will do the same, because we want the same security that the West has, and because we deserve nothing less.
Eylon Levy, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Thank you very much. Anytime.